I know what you're thinking. Another overeducated cop. There you go. I would like to applaud the courage of this club. And first of all, I'd like to applaud the courage of the club for giving an elected official a microphone. But this club shows particular courage because you've given a heavily armed elected official a microphone. So that's special courage, I think. Let me tell you a little bit about the Sheriff's Department, because sometimes people go, Sheriff's Department, Police Department? What the heck? What's the different similarities and so forth with regard to the two? First of all, the Sheriff's Department polices all of the territory outside of incorporated jurisdictions in this county. So we police all incorporated county, and we police a couple of other places. Edgewood we police on contract. If you live in University Place, we police that on contract. We police about 430,000 people in total around the county. So we police more than all the incorporated jurisdictions. Give you some perspective, that's about 10,000 more people than live in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, we police. And we police it all, over 1,800 square miles, everywhere from, the southern border of Tacoma, which is very urbanized, to East Rooster Poop out by Mount Rainier. So we police all, you've been there. All of that territory. We police urban areas, we police suburban, we police rural, we police wilderness areas. So that's a lot to do. We also run the biggest hotel in town. We are one of 200 local mega jails that's defined as 1,000 beds or more in the United States of America. We have a small town, if you will, up the street here that we're responsible for. You heard that I get to work with some amazing people. Let me tell you about the amazing people I get to work with and what this year has been like so far. Let me start it with the first day of the year. If you will remember back, it was a very bright sunny day. I was sleeping in because I always work New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve and the 4th of July are the busiest days of the year for us. I got a call at about 10:30 a.m. that said that 2 Rangers had been shot on Mount Rainier. And for response, while we're a distance away and don't police within the park boundaries, we are the closest outside law enforcement agency to support. Got the call. I got on the phone to Ed Troyer, thinking they might need some publicity help. I'll tell you an Ed Troyer story later. You see him a lot, and we're lucky to have him as our public information officer. Got the call, got my chief of operations, Rick Adamson, headed that way to start setting up the command post, and our people responded. Now, we only had 4, 1 from outside the detachment, 3 from inside the detachment, and they went roaring up the mountain. When there was ice and no radio contact that they could make because our radios don't stretch that far. When they got there, and it took them a while to get there, they had heard that only 1 Ranger had actually been shot. The other had a .30 caliber round go through his seat belt that stretched this way and broke the seat belt. So that's probably about as close as you want to get. Ranger Margaret Anderson had been hit. She called in that she had been shot, and they hadn't heard from her for about a half an hour. My people did something that I want to tell you about and I admire. I'm going to cite the United States Marine Corps on this, Mr. Driscoll, so you should know that. They decided that leaving somebody up the road for a half an hour to get shot was not acceptable. So what they did was they commandeered a Park Service pickup truck. They took off their vests and draped it over the side bed of the truck. And one of them got into drive with a vest held in the window. And at 15 miles an hour, because the roads were so icy, they crept up the mountain The guy that did the shooting was in the woods. There was an active shooter with a long gun in the woods. They crept up the mountain, up the road. They jumped out. They cut Ranger Anderson out of the truck, out of her rig. They put her in the back of the truck, and they backed down a half a mile to where they'd staged a medic unit. They didn't ask for permission. They formulated a plan. They knew what needed to be done. They jumped in and they did it. They showed courage. They showed skill. They showed compassion. Sadly, Ranger Anderson had been killed. And the Marine Corps reference. Commandant Krulak, you probably know the quote. The United States Marine Corps has strategic corporals. And this is a high compliment coming from a Navy family. I want you to know that. As strategic corporals, people at the base of the organization who make decisions that commit large quantities of resources and commit the whole organization. They decide what's right and they do it. That's the kind of people who work for you. A little time after that, another story. We have an armed robber out in Spanaway, runs into the woods. Got a number of units looking for him. One of our people goes into the woods, thinks he sees something up ahead, draws his weapon, sees a tent. There are people inside the tent. Orders the people out of the tent at gunpoint. Out comes mom and dad and 12-year-old brother and 14-year-old sister. They've lost their house. They've lost the jobs, the adults. They were living in a tent in woods. It was cold and it was wet. Our guy ascertained that there was nobody else in the tent, got blankets out of his car, went back to the precinct, did what you were doing for your fines, asked people to open their wallets, got some food, took it to them, arranged with his church, which had a mobile home on the grounds to house the family, got the dad a job, and said that what struck him was every day the parents were insisting that the kids line up at the bus stop and go to school. I've got people who have tremendous heart, tremendous courage in what they do, tremendous control in what they do, and tremendous compassion in what they do. And you've got those people too. Those people work for you. So that's the blessing I have. The kind of people that I have, that I get to work with. We've had a number of high-profile cases. You remember in February we had the Ranger Anderson shot, and in February we had the Powell case, where Joshua Powell killed his two sons and burned down his house. Here's the Ed Troyer story. About 4 days into the case, Ed gets a call. The guy says, "Ed, it's Neil. How you doing?" Ed says, "You're going to have to help me." He said, "Yeah, Neil Carlinzi." He says, "You're still going to have to help me." He says, "Neil Carlinzi, executive producer, ABC News New York." And so Ed said, "I'm sorry, Ed, didn't recognize you." He says, "Yeah, we know all the PIOs. We know the PIOs in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Pierce County." He says, "Remember I was there for the David Brain shooting, police chief who shot his wife himself? I was there for the 5 kids who were murdered out of Nordic." And he listed off, ticked off case after case after case. For some reason, we have a lot of high-profile cases. Snorkel trucks congregate in this county. And those are hard to do. They drain resources. They make you tired. In the course of this year, so far in the county, in my jurisdiction, we've had 14 homicides. That's one more than we had last year. So one of the things that we face is people who are really working very hard, and it comes one after another. Some of them are high profile and very, very taxing cases. So let me talk to you about 3 things quickly, and then have you ask some questions. No state capitals. I'm very bad on state capitals. Don't want to be held to state capital. I want to talk to you about hard times, hard choices, and hard work, and into the future. What do I mean by hard times? I don't need to tell people in this room about hard times. If you're in the private sector, your public sector, these ain't easy times, bottom line. We keep calling it a recession, maybe we should call it a depression. And it hits everybody. It hits you where you live, it hits me and my budget, it hits my people. We have had cuts, but we are not exceptional in that. All of you have experienced it. Here's some things that you might not have considered. Yes, we have cuts in our budget, but there are cuts in budgets to mental health programs, and there are cuts in budgets to prison programs. What that does is it loads more challenge on our plate. People are not being supervised after being released from Washington State prisons. That's a problem. More people have been released. That's a problem. Currently, my jail has a disproportionate number of people with serious mental problems. We congratulate ourselves in having cut a state budget. Guess what? You took it off the porch of the state of Washington and you put it on my porch. And we're not saving money. My people are encountering more mentally ill people in the field. And that's more of a challenge for us there and in the jail. So there are some indirect aspects that aren't, I'm not meaning to be playing the violin for our budget. I'm saying sometimes budgets over there and budgets over there affect what we can do over here. Hard times, but hard work and hard choices. For major cases, even though we've had to prioritize some of the lesser cases, especially property crime, down, for major cases, our people have a tremendous clearance rate. We have a clearance rate for major cases that is higher than other agencies, even larger agencies. My people are good, they work hard, they care about what they do. And you can list some of those. The Craigslist homicide case. We had 4 suspects. They fled the state. Within 4 days, we had them in custody. And we're making the case. You remember the 4 Lakewood police officers who were murdered in Parkland. That was our case because it was in our jurisdiction, so we did the investigation. Within 3 hours, we were pretty sure Maurice Clemens did it, even though it was a whodunit. I've got people with badges on. I've got analysts without badges on who helped with that. I've got people that rock me back on my heels. I have strategic corporals throughout the agency. And I am blessed, and you are blessed with that. So we do good work in hard times. And we make sacrifices. And you make sacrifices. If you live in an unincorporated county, we're prioritizing cases, you're getting some less work in lesser property crimes. You're making a sacrifice that way. My people are making sacrifices by working harder with about 26 fewer people in the field, about 22 fewer people in the jail to do the job as property crime is ticking up and violent crime is ticking up. You made the sacrifice recently in November. You voted, God bless you, you voted to reach in your pocket and finance a new radio system for us. That will help us be safer. That will help you be safer. Some of you heard me when I was on the stump for that, so I held up pieces of Swiss cheese. I said that was our radio coverage in the county. There were holes in Swiss cheese. You have sacrificed to help us cover those holes. Thank you. That showed tremendous class. We all need to sacrifice. For the last 3 years, I've given back automatic salary raises that I get as an elected official. Remember, I used to be an appointed official. So I had no idea that they give automatic salary. This ain't bad, damn. But I couldn't be standing in front of the county council asking for more money for my people while I was taking more money. Sacrifice shouldn't be shocking or rare, I don't think. What's going to happen next? Next 2 years aren't going to be easy. Not going to be easy for the general economy. It's not going to be easy for us as the private sector, please Lord, begins to improve slowly. We will lag behind by about 2 years. The private sector went off the cliff and we were still chugging along. Then tax revenues started to go off the cliff, and we went off the cliff. So we will take some time to recover. In the next 2 years, there will be more people with mental health problems we'll have to deal with. There will be more rage crime that is going up as people in the community are upset. There will also be more people released from prisons. The state of California is releasing about 30,000 people early in their prison system. Some of them will migrate north. So there are challenges, but this ain't gloom and doom, partly because of what I told you at the first. I work with people who don't have enough time, don't have enough resources, roll up their sleeves and somehow do it anyway. And they don't wait for me to tell them how to do it. They're Lance Corporals on fire teams. They know what they're about. They have a lot of independence, and they exercise it very, very well. What else is going to happen? Here's what else is going to happen. This county is going to grow. In 6 to 8 years, we're going to be over 1 million people in this county. Don't believe me, believe the Puget Sound Council of Governments, the Chamber, Board of Realtors, and so forth. Are we prepared in our civic infrastructure? What is a cop doing saying words like civic infrastructure? There we go. Are we prepared in our civic infrastructure to deal with a 1 million person county? Well, no. So what are we doing about it? Well, there's no money to gear up right now. But with the Superior Court, Judge Bruckner, other people, we got together with Prosecutor's Office, Superior Court, Department of Assigned Counsel, Medical Examiner, Juvenile Court, our agency, the jail part of our agency, and we said, what do we need in order to have a good, solid criminal justice system for a 1 million person county? No money to have it right now, but why don't we use this time to plan it? So we got together in brown bag lunches in my conference room, which is more modest than this, by the way, and we worked together to decide what we would do. We produced a document just less than a year ago, a criminal justice vision document for where we need to be in 6 to 8 years. And we decided there were things we could do right now to work better together. Part of them were de-siloing things. I know I'm using rural things, but remember, we police rural aspects of the county. Government is overly siloed. There are 23 separate law enforcement agencies in this county. We need to de-silo. We need to combine resources to take advantage of economies of scale. There are 3 separate SWAT teams. There is duplication of things, even though local control is important, and it is, that we should watch out for as taxpayers and people who want a more efficient kind of delivery of service. So we said there are things that we could do to cooperate more. We need to design a single elevator shaft for criminal justice information in the county, so we don't pull from about 3 shafts. And then we need to grow. We need more judges. We need more prosecutors. We need more sheriff's deputies. But we can't do that right now. What we can do right now is take the time we have and work on what we will need. So the people in the criminal justice system in the county, God bless, all branches got together and we're working on what we need to do. That's a good thing. And when things finally turn around, I'm going to quote not only Commandant Krulak, but my 5th grade teacher. My 5th grade teacher was this big. And to this day, I'm terrified of her. This is Sister Mary Patrick. I suffer to this day from post-traumatic nun syndrome. When I was 11 years old, Sister Mary Patrick used to say, Paul, first things first. And I hated that when I was 11 years old. But the older I get, the more Sister Mary Patrick makes sense. I'm in a 12-step program to deal with the post-traumatic things. I slowly talk to other religious, that's how I desensitize. As the economy turns around, we got to decide in government what are our priorities and do those first. And not be constantly distracted. Get the basics right first. I get to work with people of courage, of skill, and compassion. That's the blessing I have, that's the blessing you have. We are going to be a larger county. We have to make sure that those blessings continue into the future, and we're ready for them. And I'm here to tell you that we're working on that very thing right now. I'm Paul Pastor, and I approve this message. And also, as I hear people say a couple of times a day in my business, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Do we have time for questions?
Just one or two. Yeah, one or two questions. Question? Okay, Brett.
Paul, you know, a few years ago, the meth lab epidemic was the big story, especially in rural Pierce County. What's kind of the status? What's going on with that? I don't hear about it as much anymore.
There is a story behind that. You don't hear about it much anymore because it's a success story. In 1999, we had a methademic in this county. I went to the county council and said, hi, we have a methademic, we need to do something about it. It's going to cost money. By the way, the wisdom of the ages, there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you allow me to design a program which has some personnel dedicated to it, about 8 personnel, we'll do something about it. But it isn't just us who did something about it. We went from about 350 meth labs a year in Nicole County to last year 20. That's an incredible success story. Now that's a success story in good law enforcement planning and dedication, but it's also a success story in what you guys have done. That community was key to getting rid of this. Part of the financing for that, we put together an education program for the community. And the community helped big time. Now, is there still meth in Pierce County? Oh yeah. It's mostly Mexican meth. It's mostly imported by cartels. If the cartels would convert to legitimate things, they'd be Walmart. Because they filled the market niche in about 4 months after we were hammering meth labs. We changed state legislation so the precursors weren't easily available and the public was up in arms. So that was a success story. And we need to remember that there are success stories and remember how we got them. We got them through good law enforcement, and not only that, we got them through a community that got upset, got educated, got involved, got intolerant, and worked with us.
Okay, one more question, because then you can stay and talk to Sheriff Pastor.
There's no exit.
Okay, yeah. Raise your hand high. How do I choose? Okay, Virginia's deferring to Dan.
You've mentioned your contract services with some smaller communities. It seems to me that there could be more of that. In the last 20 years, there's been lots and lots of little incorporated cities, and it seems like there's not a very good economy of scale there. I know it's probably a really difficult time with budgetary concerns right now to take over more of that, but if they would contribute adequately, it seems like there would be a net savings overall, rather than having a police force in a very small city.
You're absolutely right, and you should know how contracting works. Contracting doesn't work with us subsidizing. Contracting works with people paying full freight for what they get and taking advantage of economy of scale. We were working with Eatonville recently on that, and despite the fact that we've had cutbacks, we offered them an approach that would add, I think, wouldn't add, but would take their police department, incorporate them into ours if we could. But the bottom line would be they would mostly be policed by 3 people and the surrounding people from the surrounding territory. Do you remember Boulder, Colorado? Do you remember going past the checkout stands in the market for months with the Jean-Benet Ramsey case in it? You know that Boulder, Colorado, in the 8 years before Jean-Benet Ramsey was killed, had 5 murders. 5. How good do you think they were at homicide investigation? Not because they were unintelligent or not professional, they were both, but they were very inexperienced. So anything major happening in a small agency, I've got people who do now, they'll do 28 murders this year. It becomes second nature. And that's one example, but there are other examples. child abuse cases, sex crimes, frauds, things like that. If we can work to combine resources, we can, as we're doing in University Place and Edgewood, we can maintain local control. It says University Place Police on their cars. And we can give them the advantage of economy of scale. We need to do more of that in government. We need to de-silo more, because that is probably going to be the legacy of depression.
Thank you very much.